Devlog number 3. Since last week, I've mostly been working on the battlefield layout. As predicted, it's taking a while, and it's not particularly close to done yet. But I have plenty of other stuff to talk about. Lots of topics to cover. One thing I wanted to show that changed since last time. So there was this wizard hat that I think I got as a reward for this encounter. It was also used in one of the puzzles or something. Anyway, it used a really generic helmet icon, and it just bothered me seeing it that way, so I redrew that icon. Now it's a nice floppy wizard hat looking thing. So I'm kind of proud of how this turned out. You can put it on, and it looks real good. Anyway, so this week I mostly wanted to talk about graphics and icons and stuff. So, the process of developing this game has been very bottom-up and iterative. What that means is I had an idea in my head from the beginning of what the game mechanics were going to be, but I didn't really know what I wanted it to look like. The very first interactive build of this game was actually a command line application, but I did need a UI to test out some interactive stuff like setting up the action grid, things like this, So what I did was I just put together an extremely basic UI. It was a big mess. If you look at the devlog forum thread linked in the description of this video, you can see a screenshot from the very first build that I ever showed to anybody. And that also includes a comparison to what it looks like today. So you can sort of see the evolutionary trajectory of where it's going. And what I expect is that the release version of this game is not going to look much like this, but it will be recognizable in a way as an evolution of what this is. So I'm slowly adding more details and polishing up the little bits of my UI that bother me. There is lots on this screen that bothers me. Just for an example, these icons are all black and white and have no shading and have no color to them. There is some color sometimes, but this is just, this is a black and white icon being drawn with a yellow color as the marker that I've completed that encounter. Anyway, so I'm going to redraw all of these buttons. Probably, it won't even look like just a bunch of buttons to click. Anyway, it'll be different. But I wanted to talk about sort of how I got where I am with it now. So I decided, again, I didn't really have anything in mind for what I wanted this to look like, so I just sort of decided on a basic kind of pixel art style. And let me talk for a moment about what pixel art means to me. So the term pixel art specifically means to me that I choose a particular pixel grid size and stick strictly to it. I see a lot of games that claim to be pixel art these days, but that don't stick to a pixel grid. I'm actually using a mechanism. Technical term for it is frame buffer object, FBO. You'll often hear it referred to as. I could call it a canvas. I think different game frameworks refer to this different ways. Anyway, what it means is that there is a 640 by 360 canvas that I draw everything in my game to, and then that gets scaled up to screen size with, I can control what kind of scale filter it uses, stuff like that. Let me actually pop out a full screen mode here. OBS takes a moment to catch up. So what you were just seeing was a 1280 by 1920 by 1080, so 1080p full screen resolution. This windowed size is 1280 by 720. The 640 by 360 canvas size that I chose scales at an integer multiple to both of those sizes. So I'm at 2x now, I was at 3x in full screen mode. However, I'm not actually constrained to integer multiple sizes. I'm using what's called, it has a few different names. OBS calls it an area scale filter. So if I resize this, you can see it's still pretty sharp and resizes pretty smoothly. You can see a little bit of blurriness if you look really closely, but this is about as good as it's going to get. If I go down below the native size, it's going to look bad. There's nothing I can do about that, but nobody needs to play it at such a small size like that. But yeah, so it just smoothly scales up and down. For comparison, I put in a hotkey that would use nearest neighbor scaling. So now this is just what it would look like if for every pixel that goes to the screen, it just chooses the closest pixel in the native size canvas and draws that. So you can see, like, look at the text in particular, how artifacty it is, the way it scales. It looks pretty bad. So like if I toggle, area, nearest, area, nearest. So area scale is nice. And at integer sizes, these are both the same, or at integer multiples, these are both the same thing. So like if I went into full screen mode, you wouldn't see a difference between these. If I can find wherever exact 720p is, I think I just passed it. Let's see if I can do this actually. There, I found the pixel. Did I? No, this is still scaling slightly. It's hard to tell. Anyway, now the technology behind this game that I'm using is a game framework that I've been working on for many years now. I've used it for several video games projects. Most of them haven't actually been released or gone anywhere. This is one of the most elaborate ones that has actually gone somewhere. But it's pretty robust, technologically speaking. I have a full-blown 3D renderer in here. I could easily, if I wanted to, just load and render animated 3D models in like 20 lines of code here. I have sort of considered that might be a thing I would want to do at some point here. Like go into the battle and instead of seeing, you know, this little tiny imp icon, I want to make these larger, by the way. Champions need much larger portraits. Every icon is 15 by 15 right now, and I'm just using the standard icon size for those. Anyway, so I want to make these larger for something. But I could go the route of fully animating some kind of actual character model for everybody who goes into the game. It's not a technological limitation, it's not an artistic limitation, but I do have reasons not to go that direction even if I would be capable of it. So the simplicity of the icons here, I want to get to a spot where I can see a whole bunch of them all at once. I mean, those are my inventory items, you know, like each one of these had to be individually drawn by me. Let's do this. Let's go to, that's source code. Let's go to this graphics document. So this is sort of where I doodle all of my icons when I'm figuring out what I want things to look like. There's a bunch of stuff in here that you won't see in the current build. Things for different scenarios. I have the test scenario 2 that I haven't shown all has animals instead of humanoids. So these are all a bunch of animal icons for that. And, you know, I got stuff like equipment slots, health, energy, champion icons. Anyway, so I just sort of doodle something out in this document. And then when I want to put it in the game, I'll select it, copy it, paste it to a new, oh geez, this is not, okay, so this is not the platform where I normally do this. This game is all being developed on a Mac. Oh boy, I'll talk about platforms at some points, but, you know, my workflow is not made for Windows right here. I just want to paste as new document. Paste as new image, Shift Control V. Isn't that what I did? Anyway, so that pastes a new one of those. Then I would export this to somewhere. Anyway, my workflow is not set up for this computer, but I would paste that into this resources directory here. Let's look at that wizard hat. Oh geez, let's look at that wizard hat in a real image editor. So yeah, wizard hat icon has alpha, so it's not actually strictly black and white, it's 3 colors. So black, white, and transparent. My plans for these icons are eventually to do a second pass on them where I add shading and probably some color. I do want to constrain the color palette. Oh right, sorry. I haven't talked about my constraints yet, the whole point of this. So I have these 2 scenarios here. I can select this, but again, I don't want to show too much of that. Little hints of it. It involves animals. It has completely different scenario setup. The idea here is that there's going to be a full-featured scenario editor that comes with the game. There will be a main scenario. I'll put a lot of work into it. It'll have a story. It'll have a lot of puzzles, carefully designed. I'm speaking in the hypothetical now because it's still very early in development. I mean, it's at the concept phase. I don't actually even have any puzzles built for it yet. That is one of the biggest things that I have yet to do, and that's where I want to put a huge amount of effort. Anyway, so a really good main campaign. Think of this like a Drod hold. So, I'm making something like, I don't want to compare it to the Second Sky because it's probably not going to be quite on that scale, but, making something like Gunthrow and the Epic Blunder, for example. But then, the user-made holds can exist. User-made scenarios in this game would be able to exist. And the simplicity of these icons here, icons can be per scenario. Like if I load up Test Scenario 2, I have access to these because these are all part of the animal scenario. If I load up Test Scenario 1, I have access to these because these are all part of that scenario. So part of the process of making a scenario, if you don't want to just use the basic library of icons that comes with the game, if you want to do a little bit of your own theming and stuff, you'd probably end up wanting to draw some of these. So that's a reason that I might not want to go the direction of having, fully animated 3D models in here, because while I could certainly include all the tools to import whatever animated whatever you want to put in here, that raises the raises the barrier to entry quite a bit for somebody who just casually wants to come in and put together a scenario real quick and have it not look like what do you call it, second-class citizen or whatever, have it look just as polished as the official scenarios here. So the more complexity that I include in the graphical style I use, the more work it's going to be for somebody who wants to come in and make their own scenario and make it look polished. Anyway, so there is a threshold here. I think I'm erring on a too simple side with what I have now. I'm going to definitely increase the detail of this quite a bit. So more colors, shading, more colors, some larger icons, larger champion portraits. But I don't think I'll probably want to go all the way for the full 3D models and stuff. Anyway, so that's why the style is as simple as it is, just because I want to keep it accessible to people who want to make their own scenarios. And me, my own time is not inconsiderable here. Like drawing a little 15 by 15 icon, I try to put a lot of effort into it. I looked at image references for this wizard hat, spent a good bit of time on it, and I think the result is really good. I'm kind of proud of this little icon. I'm also really proud of my ooze icon. I like that one. I was going to show the process I went through to draw those things, but I don't think I'll do that today. Maybe for another one. Anyway, so yeah, these icons will eventually, I'll do a second pass on them. Again, it'll be right. That was the old helmet icon that I was using for the wizard hats. This one's much better. I'll do a second pass on the icon. It'll be iterative, evolutionary, just like the rest of the game. But it will look better than it does now. I just want to establish the basic shapes and silhouettes and stuff before I fully build it out into something that's polished all the way. So that's where that's going. Technologically speaking, what happens with these is I put them all into individual... Boy, that's... unless you're watching this video full screen, you won't be able to see that at all. Also, these icons are unused. I can delete these. I have some old stuff here. So when I have all those individual files packed saved in this directory, I have... So this is a JSON file that lists out all the names of the things that I want to put into a texture atlas. And then I have a tool that I've written which takes this configuration file and looks at all those files and packs them up into a texture canvas. Let's open this with you. Actually, let's open this one. So we can compare these. This is the Test Scenario 1 icon atlas. It's a little hard to see with the transparency and stuff, but you have the ooze here, the giant, the equipment slots and stuff. So that's just how the icons that are used in test scenario 1 get packed in there. So that's a scenario atlas. There's also the user interface atlas, which includes fonts and checkbox radio button graphics that I need to redraw. These are like the graphics for the animations you see on the battle screen. Got 2 different fonts, a medium-sized one and a small one. So the fonts are done with... I have a similar process for those somewhere in here. So the 15-point font. So I drew this font myself. Every character is just packed together in here. This is all of ASCII, low ASCII at least, up from the first printable character to the tilde, which is the highest one. Then this has its own configuration file, kind of similar to the texture packer config here. This is just a list of files, pretty much. And another tool that I wrote takes that ping and slices up each character as specified in... Hold on, this is not the right file. Where am I? Okay, so that's... So this is telling the texture packer how to pack that, but the font creation tool, which doesn't really have a name... What am I doing? Open... What? Yes, open with... What? Windows, what are you doing? No, I just want to open it with... What? Why do you think I can't open this with... What's going on here? Here, just do that. There, I opened it. Anyway, so... Wait, no, this is the 5-point font. This is partially scripted. This part is not scripted. I have an outline, but not a full script for these. These videos are complicated to put together, by the way. Anyway, so this has a height of 15. This is 15 pixels tall. This is my 15-point font at, native size. And each character just has a width. So the space character has a width of 1. Anyway, so this all just specifies, which character is where in this bitmap. It slices that up and adds it to the texture atlas and just packs everything together. I have a not very efficient box packing algorithm that just takes these graphics of different sizes, puts them together into this file. Then I have an information file that specifies where each one has ended up going. So this all happens automatically during the build process. I just take these configuration files, plug them into my tools, and then when you build this application, it spits out, well, yeah, this, and the corresponding, so the user interface atlas file. Oh, open with Sublime Text. Now you get it. Anyway, so this is extremely unreadable. These are floating point texture coordinates, but the slash graphic, which is this one, is at these coordinates in OpenGL texture coordinates, and so on for everything that's gone into that file. Anyway, so that's how the technology behind that actually works. I'll probably end up wanting something a little bit more friendly and embedded within the game for putting together scenario icon graphics. The expectation is you won't generally have to leave this application for doing all that. Maybe to draw I don't know if I'll put an image editor in here. That's to think about when I, much later, when I have a scenario editor and stuff. But mostly I need to worry just about my own, the things I'm putting together here, rather than making it easy for everybody else. Anyway, so that's a little peek at my graphics systems and style and where that's going. So next week, if the battlefield layout stuff is done, then I can show that. If not, I can talk about maybe sounds I have a whole list of topics, so plenty to cover. Hopefully I'll be able to show some progress on that. Anyway, I'll see you next time.